Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today we're going to talk about Dungeons and Dragons. We're going to talk about Dungeons and Dragons Honor Among Thieves. We're going to talk about Guardians of the Galaxy 3, spoilers for Guardians of the Galaxy 3, and we're going to talk about how James Gunn, there's a high probability he may be the path to a sequel for Dungeons and Dragons. Let's talk it through. All right, so Dungeons & Dragons Honor Among Thieves. It earned, by its content and its quality, a sequel. By its numbers, it will not get a sequel. It just doesn't deserve a sequel based on its numbers. No company should back it based on its numbers and its current status, right? It was a commercial failure. It made about $205 million total global, and it cost, its budget was $150. Its marketing, and so if its budget is $150, successfully, it should have made $450. To be called a successful Hollywood blockbuster, it should have made $450 billion. Super Mario Brothers came out 1 week later and made $1.1 billion already. All right, so there's just no excuse for these numbers. Commercially, it's a massive failure. All right, how does Dungeons & Dragons Honor Among Thieves get a sequel based on Guardians of the Galaxy 3? Here we go. All right, so first of all, thank you for being here. My name is Scott Garibay, and you and I believe, and we believe one man can change the world. If you're here and you stayed here a while, you believe what I believe. One man can change the world. I think in 1974, Gary Gygax created Dungeons & Dragons and built a very special, very powerful bridge, the likes of which have never been seen in all of the history of humanity, to identity, narrative, and language, and that there are now a group of human beings called Dungeon Masters who interact with identity, narrative, and language in ways that no humans ever have or ever will, right? And so we believe that one man can change the world, right? And get this, I think with Guardians of the Galaxy 3, you are looking at one man positioned to change the world, okay? So why on earth is James Gunn this important right now? Okay, I'll tell you why. First of all, if you're listening, if you understand the American blockbuster scene, right, then you understand the term superhero fatigue. Superhero fatigue, right? And this has been very widely discussed, and it's very there's a solid block of evidence that there is superhero fatigue. So why would there be superhero fatigue? Very good reasons. One, DC Cinematic Universe, right? Couldn't even name itself. That's a problem right there. It never had a true name, right? So it was never in control of itself because it didn't even know its own true name. You got to know your own true name to control yourself, right? And so this isn't a joke. They literally could never even name it the DC Cinematic Universe. They toyed with the name DC Extended Universe, but they never named it. They literally never named it. And I'll tell you right now, again, we learn everything from Gary, right? He was like, true name's important. If you know a thing's true name, you can control it. Because the DC Cinematic Universe never had a true name, it couldn't be controlled by anybody, and it was out of control, and it was utter garbage. And it's been utter garbage except for a brief period where Christopher Nolan made 3 Batman movies, right? Which connected to nothing, and the rest of the DC Cinematic Universe has been utter garbage. Just pure garbage films left and right, right? And then you would get a spike of a good movie in the middle of the DC Cinematic Universe, but it didn't matter because it didn't connect to anything, right? And that's not excusable because we know the power of connection through Marvel. And so for a decade, until Avengers Endgame, we had the best superhero movies ever created, and we understood the power of connecting stories together, right? And Guardians of the Galaxy 1 and 2 was part of that, right? Avengers Endgame occurred, and at that point, Marvel became garbage, and it has been garbage, right? It's just horribly disconnected. I just watched Guardians of the Galaxy 3. It didn't connect to any other, where's Thor? Where's Spider-Man? Where's the connection, right? And what you have is DC, you have DC utter garbage, pure garbage. Marvel in big trouble, right? And the biggest issue is they said Avengers Endgame, but they didn't mean it. It wasn't the end to anything. And they're like, here's a bunch of junk about characters that died. You know, like come on, like Black Widow. Hey, we just showed your death on screen. You want to see this garbage film about her? Like, no, we don't, right? Like, so superhero fatigue is very real, okay? So we're at a position right now where people have been on board and they're like, hey, Marvel, you guys bought a lot of goodwill, but you've used it all up, right? And before Guardians of the Galaxy 3, we got to the point where we're like, okay, superhero movies are done, right? So then you're like, okay, Marvel and DC are finished. Lord of the Rings are finished. They just spent $500 million on that show. Nobody was happy. Harry Potter franchise is finished, right? And the reason why is anytime you mention that, everybody loves the stories. Absolutely, you know, Harry Potter's a great story, but every time you even announce a product, there's a huge group of people dedicated to burning the thing to the ground because they despise everything that J.K. Rowling stands for, right? So Harry Potter in massive trouble. Lord of the Rings in massive trouble. DC Cinematic Universe in massive trouble. Marvel in massive trouble, right? And this is all happening right after COVID, which is like 1 centimeter away from ending the entire movie industry, right? We're literally wondering if the you know, we were on track for a $3 billion film. Now the only thing that can put up $2 billion is Avatar 2, right? So there's a legit question if the movies are even going to continue, right? So, but one man, we know this. You and I are dungeon masters. We've seen what Gary did. One man can change the world, right? So, how do you know? Or if you're Kelsey Dion, one woman can change the world if she's willing. She's capable. Looks like she's not willing. All right. We don't know yet if one woman can change the world. We're waiting to see. Maybe we'll see. Right? Like, yeah. All right. So, say change the tabletop role-playing game world. Actually, I guess, you know what? We already know. Amanda Heyman changed the world with Strixhaven. The most expansive intellectual property bridge ever built, right? And opened the gate to tabletop role-playing game to the second pillar within Dungeons & Dragons, which is interaction. So one woman can change the world too. We know it. It's been proven, right? All right. So let's keep going here. All right. So how can James Gunn change the world and save Dungeons & Dragons Honor Among Thieves and give it a sequel? Here we go. So Guardians of the Galaxy 3, I just finished watching it. It is spectacular. It is so good. So good. Right? By the way, if you don't know his channel, go watch Man Carrying Things. And he has a really funny joke where DC's like, you were supposed to phone that movie in, buddy. What happened? Why is Guardians of the Galaxy 3 freaking amazing, right? And so Guardians of the Galaxy 3 is a legit end to the Guardians of the Galaxy story, right? And literally the team breaks apart at the end of the film, and it's an end to the Guardians of the Galaxy film. And the reason why was James Gunn is like, I'm the lead of the DC Cinematic Universe now. I can't be flipping between the two. This has to be my last movie. I was already contractually obligated to make it, and I made the first 2 movies, but I got to duck out of Marvel now. I can't be doing projects for DC and Marvel, right? This was tolerated while I was an individual contributor, but I'm literally the lead of the DC Cinematic Universe at this point, and I have to recuse myself from Marvel. So this was him making his final movie, his final Marvel movie, and the final movie of Guardians of the Galaxy. What's fascinating is, boy, did he knock it out of the frickin' park. Oh my gosh, right? He nailed it, right? This thing is absolutely incredible. And it's so good, it points right back to Gary. And it says, one man can change the world, right? And so the reality, it was so good that it says, okay, listen, we all wanted James Gunn to do something real and burn the DCEU to the ground and then build up something real. And when he announced that he was going to keep some of that old junk, some of that old crap, we were like, well, this is going to be, soup made from rotten fruit, right? But here's the thing. This thing is so good, right, that it makes you go, oh, I'm going to have to watch the DC Cinematic Universe movies, and the reason why is James Gunn can make a movie, period, end of sentence. Not only can he make a movie, he can make a trilogy of films, right? Actually, that's pretty rare. Can you start? Can you continue? Can you finish? Who can do it? Who can start, end, and finish? Zack Snyder couldn't finish, right? Couldn't finish his Justice League run, right? J.J. Abrams couldn't finish his Star Wars run, right? Harry Potter couldn't finish it with the same actors. You had to go, we're going to have to get a new actor to play, who was Dumbledore's nemesis, right? You couldn't finish it, right? So starting, continuing, and finishing series, almost nobody in Hollywood can do it, but we know James Gunn can, right? He can start, he can end, and he can finish. There's got 1 in 1,000 people in Hollywood can do that, right? Who's proven they can do that, right? By the way, George Lucas, he's out of the game, right? And that's the point, is we now know that the DC Cinematic Universe can start a trilogy, continue a trilogy, and end a trilogy, and it's not going to suck. We have never, ever known that since Nolan, right? Christopher Nolan, he's out of the game. He doesn't make genre material anymore. Oh, here's Oppenheimer. You ready for a really thinky documentary? Be nice if you'd make an actual IP that people cared about. Oh, I guess we can get another Dunkirk. Thanks. Right? So James Gunn is the man. He is the man, and he can actually restore. He can get this. This is what he can do. Right? Listen to this. Right? He can ignite DCC. He can ignite the DC Cinematic Universe and make it so good that Marvel has to put something up. It's like, oh crap, if we keep serving up the same pablum crap we've been putting up, if we do another movie like Ant-Man Quantumania, DC Cinematic Universe will eat our lunch, right? So the Krispy Kreme just arrived for the Dunkin' Donuts, right? You now are looking at this battle station is fully operational. James Gunn is going to deliver, right? And right now, I think Marvel's like, oh crap, we got to do something, right? So that means the DC Cinematic Universe is going to be activated. Marvel is going to have to be forced to make a decision, start up the new X-Men title, or completely revamp the Avengers and quit serving us up crap, right? So we're about to get a very good DC Cinematic Universe and a very good Marvel universe, right? So how would that save Dungeons & Dragons Honor Among Thieves and get us the second sequel? One person. Can you tell it? Do you know it? Right? Bradley Cooper. Bradley Cooper has been working with James Gunn for close to 10 years on, probably 7 or 8 years at least on Guardians of the Galaxy. You know what Bradley Cooper just worked on? Dungeons & Dragons. He was in the movie, right? Played a key role, right? So all he's got to do is go to James Gunn when James Gunn delivers his first movie in the trilogy and everybody sees that single-handedly James Gunn is restoring Hollywood's ability to move toward a $3 billion film, right? Can you imagine Batman versus Superman under James Gunn? Could you imagine it, right? That's a $3 billion film right there. That breaks history, right? So with that kind of juice coming out of James Gunn, right? All it takes is one phone call, right? From Bradley Cooper saying, hey, I was in that Dungeons & Dragons Honor Among Thieves. That thing was on point. The people are great. We can make that into another successful intellectual property for Warner Brothers. Why don't you make a call? I'll be in it. And I think we can really make, an amazing film, right? One call. And you're like, Scott, come on, man. James Gunn ain't going to make a multi-billion-dollar decision based on a few friends. You been paying attention? One of the major characters in the James Gunn film, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, is his brother. Come on, right? You want to know why he didn't burn the DCCU to the ground? Because he vacations with Zachary Levi, in my humble opinion. And because he didn't want to fire his wife from Peacekeeper, right? It's literally that. Like, this dude will pick up the phone for his friends, and one call could be enough to make a multi-billion-dollar franchise possibility re-emerge for Dungeons & Dragons, right? It just takes a single call from Bradley Cooper. So one call from Bradley Cooper, we could be looking at Dungeons & Dragons Honor Among Thieves 2, right? Dungeons & Dragons Shadows of Double Dark. We could be looking at Dungeons & Dragons Shadows over Baldur's Gate, the second in the trilogy. Every single word of that is my humble opinion. What's important is when I get to hear your humble opinion, when you get in the comments and send your traffic. Please consider liking and subscribing, and have a wonderful millennium.